Hello, 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 and welcome to Three Bears Gaming. I'm not Lucas, I'm Herb. Hi. Welcome to everyone out there. This is our very first wellness stream. In just a few minutes, I'm going to bring our guest on tonight. Our guest is Geek Revolution, our friend Brandon. Let me give him a shout out. Waboom, 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 wabam. It's a very tough time right now for a lot of people. 2020 has been an absolute test of mental and emotional fortitude and strength. And so I thought it'd be nice to do a stream with somebody who's in the mental health field. And for that matter, a stream where we specifically sit down and discuss things about mental health, resources, ways we're feeling, outlooks, perspectives, things like that. I'm going to do a little reading here from this little book that my mom sent me. Yeah, and then afterwards we're just going to like play random games. I might play some Tony Hawk. I might jump on some Rocket League. I might play The Messenger or finish one of these games from Wednesday that I started. Yeah, so let me switch over here and let's give Brandon a call. Hope everybody's doing all right. Happy Friday. Welcome, welcome. Hope you're feeling all right. Hope everything's good. Let's talk about some stuff. How about that? Give me just a sec. What's up, Big Cub? Hello, Slovakian. Hi. Yeah. So give me just a second here. All right. So I'm going to call up Brandon over here on the right. We're going to get rid of that for now. Give me just a second. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
So we might have to. Let me hear for a second. Okay, it was doing a double on me, but now it seems like it's all right.
Yeah, I cut my mic off on the computer.
Okay, cool. So let me make sure you're like. Let me get this audio just right. Also, you know, just because we're streaming and because of Twitch, we may have interruptions for people when they come in and do stuff. So just, you know, I figured this isn't supposed to be like some kind of perfect, like completely succinct thing. You know, we're having a stream and we're talking about mental health. So,
Right.
so I think, let me turn you up. Let me turn this down. Okay, now say something.
Hi, everyone.
There we go. Okay, that's much better. So hi. How's it
How
going?
are you?
You look good. You look you know, you always have this vibe of like regardless of what you may be saying, when I ask you how you are and when I see you when you come to events or when we run into each other or whatever, you always have this vibe of like, you know, everything's going to be fine regardless of what's going on. And I love that. And that's so hard to like muster sometimes, especially for a lot of people who struggle with a lot of different things. You know, it's hard to kind of just pull that out of thin air and just be like, you know, just have good vibes immediately. So I really appreciate that about you, and that's why I wanted to ask you to come and talk about stuff with me.
Sure. So thanks for having me.
Of course.
This is interesting. It's really weird because I've been doing a lot of these types of things like across a couple of different streams on Twitch, actually.
Cool.
So this is like, I don't know. I'm thinking like maybe I just need to like jump in on some things like this more regularly. But you know, it's great to be here. I'm glad to be able to talk to people and answer questions. Yeah, just let me know. I'm kind of I talk fast, so you guys tell me to slow down. But yeah, this is gonna be great. I'm excited.
Cool. So I guess the first thing is we should start off with okay, they're saying you got to be a little bit louder. All right, let me turn him up.
Well, I'm be yelling.
Okay, actually that's much better. Like, yeah. I mean, it's just different because I have like an actual mic here and I think yours is just a phone. But it sounds all right. I just got to like level it. Okay, they're saying better. Okay, cool. So the first thing we should start off with is the disclaimer that you were saying, because I do think that's important for sure.
Yes. So, as you guys may or may not know, I am a licensed social worker and therapist. I am here to answer questions for you guys, but I cannot answer or be your direct therapist on this stream. You can ask me questions about mental health or just general tips. But like if you have personal inquiries or things that you need personal assistance with, I can only give you kind of like general questions, but I can't really offer you therapy as we're here on the stream. Also, you are not able to DM me for like personal therapy on here. You will have to kind of be in contract with me in individual therapy in order for me to be able to actually be your therapist if you have questions. It kind of happens a lot when people want a lot of support,
Right.
which is I'm more than happy to help you with, but it just has to follow a certain process. Also, as you can see, I work for Emory, so I have to be very mindful about these types of things as well. So, yeah.
Cool. All right. Yeah, it's good to get that out of the way. I think a lot of people, who don't necessarily have any like experience in the mental health field. So my mom's a nurse, right, and she's done a lot of work in mental health, and often she will comment on how often like she'll talk with people, and they'll kind of want like answers to things, like immediate answers, immediate fixes to things, and it's like, well, I mean, like, one, advice is a very loose term. Advice is not really the term. It's more like suggestion. And two, like, people need to get paid for that. People need to get compensated for their expertise. So that being said, if you have like a Cash App or tip jar thing that you want to do, we can put that in the chat. I figured I'd leave that up to you if that's what you want to do.
I didn't even think about that, but I'm going to pay it this time just because I don't know. I feel like right now people need to hang on to their nickels if they got them, and I'm working. So like, while I would appreciate a tip, I don't think it's necessarily the right thing right now to ask people for money. Sure. Or even just make it available for them to offer me money at that type of thing. So for now, all of these are freebies.
Got you.
Ask all the questions you can tonight, guys. I do all types of I have like information to help you guys navigate hospital systems. I can help you understand insurance better, things like that. So feel free to ask questions if you got them.
Cool. And just anybody else out there, if the stream is kind of dipping a little bit, just let me know. Sometimes the internet's just, that's just how it is. I see we dropped a few frames, but it's not too bad. But it's kind of going up and down a little bit. I don't know. The internet's a little weird, but either way, we're gonna get this out. So, all right. So the first thing, I guess, is what exactly do you do? Like, what does your job entail?
So right now, currently, I do case management and inpatient therapy for inpatient psychiatric hospital at Emory, specifically Emory Wesley Woods. So what you'll do is that when patients or people go into what's considered a crisis, so they're having a mental health emergency, they'll be sent through a process that will get them ultimately into inpatient treatment with me or Grady or Eastside, Summit, Ridgeview, or I forgot the other one, Georgia Regional Hospital. All of these are in Peachford. Sorry, these are all inpatient hospitalizations in the Atlanta area. There might be another one I might be missing, but they all offer stabilization, which typically lasts 3 to 5 business days.
Okay.
Sometimes it goes into the weekend as well, and it just depends on the person how long they stay. But the goal of inpatient treatment, which most people think is supposed to be therapy intensive, it's not. It's meant for medication management and stabilization, and then you get therapy to build skills, offer some psychoeducation, and then you go home discharging to like an outpatient program where you do the more intensive therapy programs, talk therapy, building more skills, engaging in more therapeutic, which is kind of like a second part of my other job, which is like an outpatient therapist doing work like that.
Okay, cool. And I mean, I know this is gonna be a whole rabbit hole, but like, what got you into this? Why this? Why not anything else?
Right. So for me, it's a several things. I have a longer story, but the long of short of it is that my life path, because I've tried to be more of a spiritual person, has brought me into just taking care of people. My purpose is to kind of guide people through really difficult storms.
Right.
Um, in my darkest moments in my life, I really didn't have anybody. All of them, from my own sexual abuse as a child, my parents' issues growing up, just growing up gay and black in the South.
Mhm.
Like my darkest moments, I've always been by myself, and I didn't have anybody to ask questions for. It was just me and God, and I had to figure out a way to kind of save myself. So I took the resolve and the resiliency that I built on my own, and I decided that I wanted to be able to offer that to other people in some capacity and teach them how to build their own resiliency, show them that they have a path to be able to take care of themselves and heal themselves, offer them guidance and support, and show people that you are a lot stronger than you think you are. You just need just a little encouragement,
Right.
and I also just have a knack for like counseling people, I guess. So I was like, hey, this is something I can do. Why not?
Well, you've got the charm, you've got the voice, and you're always every time we've ever talked about anything, even if we're just talking about games and we're having fun or whatever, you're always very patient, and I really appreciate that. It's not easy to stay patient these days, um, and I think patience is something I'm continuously working on. Definitely, definitely, I can relate to like yes, on a technical level, right? There are always things out there. There are
Mhm.
resources out there, but many times in life, when we're feeling our lowest, it hits you when you're by yourself, for sure. It hits you
Right,
when you move into a new place by yourself, or when you get fired from a job, or when somebody in your family passes, or whatever. Like a lot of times it can hit
right,
you, and there just isn't really anybody right there. And so I'm
right.
definitely interested, like as far as tools that can help you out when you're alone. I think that's vital. I think that's a very vital thing, especially right now when when everybody should be quarantined. um all right, cool. All right, so um I'm gonna put a little link out here in our Discord. There's a section called wellness, and on
Yes.
on the left side, there's a section called wellness, and in that section, there's several things. I just wanted to bring up a few here that you posted that I thought were interesting. So the first one is stay grounded with your five senses.
Hmm.
So tell me all about this.
So grounding is a technique used for reducing anxiety. It's one of those coping skills and strategies that is taught in the system of modality of therapy called cognitive behavioral therapy.
Right?
And that's really more so about a layman's way of putting it is about really analyzing the way you think about your thoughts. And it's pretty much the mainstream in treatment right now. Most inpatient treatments and outpatient treatments focus on a CBT model first. You have what's called the cognitive triangle, where you think about your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors,
Right?
and then how they impact one another when we engage in certain things, whether it be a behavior, or we have a thought, or we feel an emotion. We'll talk about and unpack why you're doing or having that experience. How did these things feed into each other? Which one started first? And then interject a coping skill or strategy at some point in that cognitive triangle to kind of help yourself reduce or diminish the behavior, thought, or feeling, whatever the case may be, or reframe it is the term you would use.
Yeah.
Um, Grounding technique is used to kind of help reduce anxiety. So one of the things that anxiety will do to you is that it promotes like rumination. You'll sit up and people get anxious, they start swirling around with these thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
and they're really focused on maybe something that hasn't happened yet. They might have a focus is distorted because they're really preoccupied with just this feeling of being overwhelmed. I can't really calm myself down.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. And then they start to spiral. You might even have an anxiety or panic attack. and because your thoughts are just kind of going in this reel over and over and over again, and you can't seem to slow it down. Um, Grounding will help that stop or diminish that. And what it does is it focuses you on being present, and being kind of aware of what's happening with you in the moment. And it takes you out of the future. So a lot of people will say anxiety is people focusing too much on things that haven't happened yet, or things that they can't control. So the grounding techniques forces you to focus on things that are around you through one of your five senses, and then you actively start to calm yourself down by distracting your mind, by focusing on things that are in front of you that you can
Right.
tangibly do something about, whether it be something you can see, hear, smell, or taste. And it kind of act, and it just brings you down as far as your anxiety level. And what you would do is you would kind of find a way to be comfortable, whether it be standing or sitting. You can do it laying down. I don't really encourage that, just because lying on the floor is can be very anxiety producing depending on the situation,
Right.
in your environment. Sometimes it's not the most feasible, but you could just focus on you're being in Walmart and you feel your anxiety going up because there's just too much activity going on. What you could do is just start to count the things that are in front of you, because you're actively focusing on what's present in front of you, as opposed to the noises and the lights and the kids screaming and all these people around you, that type of thing. And it'll just kind of help you refocus yourself.
I like that. I
Excuse
like
me.
that. I think these days, there are a whole lot of distractions going on, and I think we kind of like forget just how, like, I don't know if fragile is the word, but I think, like, okay, when you and I grew up, right, nobody had, cell phones weren't ubiquitous. It wasn't everywhere. We
Right.
weren't constantly connected, and I think our technology is advanced pretty fast, but we're still the same humans. And
Right.
a lot of times, really, there's just too much going on. There's too many things to
Yeah.
focus on. There's too many things to pay attention to and to worry about, and we have access to it all the time. So I think
Right.
this kind of practice, and I mean, these suggestions are wonderful. This is good. It really
Right.
it really helps to ground yourself, mentally and emotionally, regardless of the situation, and have the tools to be able to do that at any time.
Right. I'm glad you mentioned that about the phones, because there was some research that kind of supports the fact that instances and reports of anxiety have gone up since like the use of cell phone and the advancements of technology.
Right.
People tend to use their phones as a way to check out, so to speak, and not really be present. Like they're really everywhere else except what's going on in front of them by virtue of just being on your phone. You could
Yes.
be at the table with friends, and a way to kind of decompress and de-stress from your day, to talk about your day, but instead of you talking about your day, you're focused on what's going on Instagram. I'm guilty of that. I've done that before,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
because
we
I
all
think
we all
that
do it now.
social media makes it. Yeah, if social media makes it seem like everywhere else is more interesting than what's going on in front of you, right?
Yeah.
And even when there is something interesting going on in front of you, social media kind of encourages you to like step out from what's going on in front of you and make it available to everyone else everywhere else. And that in and of itself is kind of like a nice recipe for anxiety.
Oh yeah.
But um, oh, sorry, I'm reading the strings and stuff as I'm talking to you. I should be
It's okay.
focused. Look at me doing too much at once, right? And it's so easy to do. See, this is a perfect example. Like I'm trying to do both, and it's like you got to be
Yeah.
present. So
No, same. I mean,
it's something that we're
yeah.
just all so easily, yeah, it's so easy to slip into now. And it's one of those things where you have to actively take intentional and like intentional time to fix these problems. One of the things I talk to my patients about is the power of intention. You really do need to set aside intentional time to not engage with electronics. When it's time for you to go to bed, if you know you have issues with sleep, you need to like not sleep with your phone. Go ahead and buy yourself an alarm clock. I know they're kind of old and outdated, but like your phone doesn't need to be right next to you when you go to sleep. You need to like take time to decompress and let yourself step away from all these things that are built-in distractions. They'll help you to kind of,
Oh wait,
lower
hold
your
on.
anxiety levels.
Hold on one sec. Thank you so much, Dylan, for that raid. Thank you. Real quick shout out to Dylan Dean. I'm glad to see you streaming, buddy.
Dylan.
right? I'm like, he needs to be streaming more. Look at that cute icon. It's a big old bear. That's adorable.
What did I say? What happened? Oh.
I know. It's like you can see. Well, we can see each other, but not quite on the same. Yeah. To anybody who's just tuning in, we are doing our very first wellness stream. We're talking with our friend Brandon here, who's a social worker and who works in the mental health field in general. And we're just kind of like going over some things and talking about stuff because let me tell you, this week has been stressful, and not just politically. We just had Pete. Pete was in the hospital for a few days. He's fine. He's home now. He's good. But what's the old quote? When it rains, it pours. Right? There's always something to freak out about, and we can choose how we decide to react to that. To freaking out situations.
Very true.
So all right. So the next thing I want to talk about. Well, I'll go through the Discord here in a minute.
Best friends. Yep.
Okay.
You want to go do karate?
We just got another friend. Yep. Thank you, Sunflower. Thank you.
Thanks, girl.
Okay, so the next thing on here is I saw this way. Yeah, and you said 6 ways to practice grounding. I saw this one. I also wanted to talk to you about breathing exercises because as cliche as it might seem to some of you out there, like, oh yeah, duh, I breathe without thinking about it. Why do I need help breathing? But for real,
because most people do it wrong.
Yes,
most people do it wrong.
Yeah, all right. I'm gonna let you go on a spiel. Go ahead.
No, so this is like one of the big things that I learned when I was practicing in my master's program, trying to learn how to be a therapist, right? And one of the biggest things was that people are often breathing incorrectly. So one of the things that I started my career out working with children. And one of the things we would tell them, like, use your coping skills and take some deep breaths. Well, deep breaths don't work for me. They never work. Well, that's because you're not doing it right. Scientifically, breathing has to work. The way breathing works is that it's going to slow your body down. If you're not calming down, if I'm taking deep breaths, it's because you're not breathing appropriately. It's scientifically impossible for you not to calm down if you're breathing correctly.
Right.
So you guys follow up with a physician to get better understanding of this than I am, because again, I do work in a hospital setting, but everybody texts me when I'm trying to be in the middle of stuff, but like when I'm not doing anything, nobody wants to talk to me. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah.
But so when you're like, say you're having an issue and things are going on in your brain and you feel like you're overwhelmed. There are a lot of hormones going on in your brain that are kind of, I'm trying to keep it as less technical as possible because I want everybody to be able to access it. But you'll have a lot of hormones going, like swirling around in your brain, and your brain needs oxygen to function properly. Okay, that's why we kind of go into like have brain hemorrhaging and all these types of things when we like lose oxygen to the brain, things like that. And we have so much brain damage when we don't have enough oxygen to the brain. When you take deep breaths and you focus on getting as much oxygen into your lungs as possible, it'll force your brain to slow down. Okay, it forces your body to slow down. It forces your muscles to relax. Everything is connected. Okay, so when you get more oxygen in, everything starts to slow down. Now, there are certain cases where that's not possible, but that's more related to medical issues. So like, heart attacks, things like that, strokes, these things are not really under your control when they're happening. But like outside of that, when we're talking solely on mental health issues, almost every type of emergency crisis situation can be measured out or kind of like mitigated with like just deep breathing activities. Okay. Right. So you have like diaphragmatic breathing, which is breathing from your belly. You see that a lot in meditative work. And it's more, there are a lot of schools of thought on that. And that's like a whole series in and of itself on breathing. But if you're having some issues with anxiety often, breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth slowly kind of forces your body to like just slow down. That practice in and of itself is a mindfulness practice. So if you focus on the air going in through your nose, out through your mouth, that in and of itself distracts you. It's a grounding technique we talked about earlier.
Right.
You're focusing on one of your 5 senses, things you can touch. You're touching the air, touching your nose and coming back out, things like that. And it's all slowing you down. Okay. You also have, I think it's called thoracic breathing, where you're breathing in your chest. You see a lot of that in yoga.
Right.
That is really helpful, but it can be very emotionally taxing. So you might find yourself getting very teary. You might start crying, things like that, if you breathe a lot, because when you're panicking, you're doing a lot of thoracic breathing, and you're
Right.
going to just like feel like I'm out of control and I'm spiraling, I'm having a heart attack. When you slow that down, you might feel yourself starting to come on this like I'm bottoming out, so to speak, from a high. So that's the best way I can explain it or describe it. And you might become emotional. So I will always encourage people, if you're going to do like thoracic chest breathing exercises, that you have a clear understanding of where you are emotionally, and not
Yeah.
allowing yourself to just do this like when you're driving, or when you're just in situations where like having an emotional breakdown is probably not the best thing to do right now,
Right.
because it can happen. I've done a lot of thoracic breathing when I do like my yoga stances, like heart openers. So you can use different certain poses and breathing that will open your chest cavity up, and you'll start crying if you do it in the right pose that works for you. And it'll just kind of feel uncomfortable, but it's a large release, and you'll feel great afterwards. But that needs to be practiced under some sort of guidance, and you have to have a solid foundation in that type of thing before you start engaging in that. That's something there are people who are better at that than I am. So I would encourage you to like look into like yogas and yogis and that type of practices, because they can give you a better understanding there. But definitely try to do some guided work around that.
Cool.
What else? Oh yeah, I don't know. I'll leave it for there. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, I think it's very easy to forget, just as human beings, that your heart is not one constant rate. It's not
Right.
the same exact tempo every second. I mean, it kind of goes up and down with every little breath. I mean, it's like an engine, you know.
Mhm.
And you really only think about it when you go to the doctor and they get the stethoscope out and you can hear it, or when you're
Right.
actually able to like kind of slow down and be quiet and listen to your own body. You can hear it, but the rest of the time, it's kind of going all over the place. It's not very steady at all. And I
Right.
think breathing is crucial because it really kind of forces you to stop and
Right.
pay attention to your body. And
It does.
you know,
It does.
yeah,
Yeah, and it paces you out, because what
right,
you're saying, our heart rate does kind of go up and down from time to time. But if you actively engage in breathing techniques pretty regularly, your heart rate will typically have a pretty steady pace.
yeah,
Usually, we don't realize how shallow we're breathing. I
yep,
forgot what it's called, but there are some people who just stop breathing throughout the day. It's not so much apnea. It's something that's like that, but it's more so like you might be just walking around and then you just don't breathe, or you hold your breath.
right. Oh, I do that all the
Subconsciously,
time.
things like that.
All the time when I'm
Yeah, and that.
concentrating or like when I'm waiting for something to happen, I'll sit there
Hmm.
and I'll just hold my breath without even thinking about it, and then I realize like
Right.
sometimes that'll give me a headache, sometimes that'll make me stressed, sometimes that'll make
Hmm.
me kind of like
Hmm.
a little lightheaded, like a little fuzzy, and then I have to like catch
Hmm.
myself like, "Hey, whoa, wait. Keep breathing. Keep breathing." you know?
Right. Keep breathing. Around the ground, they said it best. Just keep breathing. Keep
It's
breathing
true.
and
It's
breathing.
true.
That's what
It
you just
sounds
gotta
so
keep doing.
simple.
And it's like it's you when you practice it, it just becomes second nature to you.
Yeah.
And when I started engaging in more like breathing techniques intentionally, again that word intention,
Yep.
um, I noticed myself not doing it as often, and I breathe more evenly. I know when something's off with me emotionally because my breathing's impacted. So
Yes.
I have to be very. You just learn to be in tune with your body. The more you do those tiny practices like that. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Hi, Glitter, by the way. Hello. If anybody in the chat has any questions or any things you want to bring up, we can absolutely talk about this. I figure we'll go for, I kind of set the time between an hour and 2 hours, and we talk till we're done talking, and then we'll do another wellness stream, maybe in 2 weeks. But okay, so
Sure.
the next thing is, so this is something that really speaks to me very closely. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 4, and thankfully I had a mom and a dad at the time who were both proactive in getting me to see like a neurologist and getting us as a family into therapy so we could deal with it, because it was kind of, you know, when you have, I was the only kid in the house at that time. My sisters had already kind of, well, no, anyway, long story short, I was like the youngest. I was the new kid. I was the baby. So you know what I mean? So when your baby has something like autism, something like ADHD, something like bipolar disorder, things like that, which all are not, you know, the same, obviously, but those kinds of things where they can be debilitating, but they can be worked through and lived with, those kinds of issues. I think it kind of does sort of take the focus of the family, and it takes a family to get through it, you know?
Right.
So I feel very grateful that my folks were into that, and not everybody gets that same treatment. And something that always kind of goes through my head when I talk about my ADD, which is still a thing today. I mean, I deal with it every day, is medication versus therapy. And, you know, personally, I think it is a bit of both that get us through things, that help us overcome our issues. It's medication and it's therapy. But I feel like there's definitely a large chunk of folks out there who like only go to therapy but take no meds, or only take a bunch of meds but don't go to therapy. And I feel like I guess I wanted to ask you how you feel about all that, because I know you've got some thoughts on it.
You're trying to get me on the hot seat. Not today. But no, seriously. So I'm gonna give you guys the evidence-based answer. Then I'm gonna give you the answer that I would give clinically, and I'm gonna give you just my personal answer. Okay, because those are kind of three different things. So evidence-based says that in behavioral health, you need to couple medication management and therapy together. They work best together. If you're on medications, you need to be engaging in some sort of therapy or skill-building activity to get the best outcome. There are behavioral components to almost all mental health diagnoses, and the behavioral components are learned behaviors. So even with depression, yes, you may have depression, but everyone's depression is different.
Yeah.
Some people might eat a lot. Some people might isolate. Some people might engage in risky behavior. Some people might lash out. Some people might self-harm. Some people might engage in suicidal ideation or suicidal behaviors. It just depends on the person and the intensity of said depression. So you have to just kind of be aware of that. And all of those things are kind of the sum total of your life experiences, traumas or lack thereof, or your family dynamics. These all feed into the person that you are and your behaviors. And those behaviors directly impact how you experience depression. Okay.
Right.
That's why therapy is so subjective and individualized. That's kind of true for almost all the mental health diagnoses. And part of therapy helps you to unlearn those behaviors that keep you stuck in that negative headspace. A good example is I've had clients who have a chronic mental health disorder such as psychosis, schizophrenia, and they have a lot of hallucinations, a lot of thought disorganization, and one of their favorite things to do is smoke weed.
Right.
Well, the evidence points to that smoking weed is not your friend, baby. You can't smoke weed because it agitates psychosis. I know it makes you feel better in the moment, but smoking weed can make you more psychotic. It can send you into another psychotic break. You just cannot use cannabis. It's just not for you. I know your friends might do it, but that's just not going to help you. That behavior may be influenced by your environment, because your environment, everyone smokes weed. That's how they kind of build rapport. That's how, you know, we all might feel like it's harmless or whatever the case may be in controlled doses, but the reality for you is that you can't do it.
Yeah, I feel like
you have to,
like a really good analogy to that is like epilepsy. You know what I mean? Like for the large majority of people, sure, going out to clubs, strobe lights, loud music, you know, very, very intense public situations, that works for a lot of people. But there are definitely people that just cannot be in those settings, or they will have a freak out. They will have a panic attack. So I think, you know, yeah, I mean, just what you're saying. Yeah, it's different for everyone. You know, weed is great, but it's not like the magic cure for everybody's situation necessarily.
Right. So with these different things, therapy from the clinical sense will help you to unpack why, for that, using that example, like why smoking weed was
oh wait, hold on.
To cope with your psychosis.
Hold on.
Was like unpack.
1 sec. We had that that huge sub. Zordo, thank you. I thought I knew how to turn these off while we did this stream, but to be honest, I'm not gonna like shut off the love. So thank you, Brandon. Just roll back a minute and say that again. I'm sorry.
Oh, I lost train of thought. Oh, so you therapy would kind of help you unpack why. Just as an example, smoking weed was a good coping strategy for you to engage with managing your mental health diagnosis, which would be schizophrenia in this scenario. Conversely, a person who has anxiety and they may engage in, I'm trying to think of patients without necessarily giving out too much information. One patient I had engaged in like picking behavior because of their anxiety. So they would pick at their skin a lot. And that was like something that really just wasn't helpful and is comfortable. And it's also considered self-harm.
Yeah.
So therapy would be coupled with like medication that they're on for anxiety to kind of help them unlearn why self-harm or that picking behavior is something that's self-soothing to you. So you can like swap that and coping skill out for something else that kind of satisfies the same need, whatever that need is that you're getting from picking, right? So that part is the clinical piece. The evidence-based piece. The clinical piece, when we're talking about medication and therapy, when we're in the clinical setting, medications take precedence. So you need to be on your medication. You need to be taking whatever medications the doctors are prescribing to you. If you don't want to take medication, you need to be very vocal about that. And you need to work with your care team to really come up with a solid plan to navigate if you're not going to take medications. You also need to be informed of the risk. So, if you have like severe depression and you have like a chronic depression, so that could be because it's hereditary. Maybe both of your parents have depression and you have this genetic predisposition to depression. You need to be made aware of that. You need to be made aware of how it's going to impact your life and what the outcomes could be, and what your strategy and safety plan needs to be if you're not going to engage in medication management.
Right.
That type of thing. When you're in a inpatient setting, again, for people who might be just coming in, most people think going to the psych hospital is going to be, you being strapped up and they kind of don't let you do anything. And most people call it a jail. But the reality of it is it's a short hospital stay, and it's primarily meant to get you on medications to stabilize in a quick amount of time.
Right.
Most people don't understand this about inpatient psych, but typically the medications that you're on in inpatient, they could do the same thing in 6 months on an outpatient basis. Inpatient just allows you to do what can be done in 6 months in like 5 days. So that way you can get a quicker outcome and not be struggling, for so long. And that amount of time can put you at risk. Some people might engage in suicide or like hurt other people or themselves, whatever the case may be.
Right.
Bipolar disorder is another one that's notorious for like ruining people's lives.
Oh yeah.
They go into these manic episodes and they are euphoric, thinking that everything they're doing is fine, and they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, engaging in risky sexual behaviors. They ended up flying to New York and they live in Florida, and out of nowhere, nobody knows where they are. Now they're homeless in New York City and nobody knew they were there.
Right.
Like this has happened to people because it can get that intense. So medication management is there to help you avoid a crisis situation that could turn into a life-threatening situation.
Right.
And that's the clinical piece. My personal piece is that if you are serious about your mental health progress, and depending on your diagnosis and severity of your diagnosis, I think you can handle it without medications, some of them. I've seen people be off their medications and have chronic mental health disorders, but they put a significant amount of intention into being healthy, changing their diet. They're engaging in the healthiest of healthy practices. They're vegan now. They jog every day. They do yoga 3 times a week. They do all these different things to keep themselves balanced. And they know when things are getting bad, I have a plan. These are the things I can do. And they're also open to going on medications if it comes to it, but they're doing everything they can in the healthiest way possible to prevent themselves from not having to take medications. So you can't be on one hand, I don't want to take meds, but then I'm over here smoking weed, drinking alcohol, all I eat is junk food, I never exercise, and then expect to be okay just because you take deep breaths every day. That's not how that works.
Yeah, I like something you said just a little while ago was that you said your healthcare team. That's very, very important. It is a team effort. It's not just you see one person and you get this magical placebo cure and everything's cool. It's a team. I remember being young. We saw the neurologist, we saw a doctor, we saw a family a therapist, and then on top of all that, I would go home, and at home and at school I would take Ritalin, for ADHD. And when I look back on it now, do I miss taking it? Absolutely not. I think it made me feel kind of weird. I think it kind of made me a legitimately functioning, but also kind of a different person, and also when you're young, you're still kind of like developing, and so you don't really know who you are. I do not take anything today for my ADHD, but I will say that after, essentially 2.5 decades of working through and using all the tools that I gained through therapy, all of the routines that I put down, that were kind of ingrained in me with my folks and the therapist and everything, those things have helped me to, I'm not going to say overcome, but have helped me to kind of like work through these things and find ways to deal with them as an adult in a productive manner, to where I don't feel like I need the pill, but like you said, it's a group effort. It's like hitting it on all the spokes of the tire. It's not just one thing. There's no one cure.
That's very true. And if anybody works in a hospital setting, they know how patients can be sometimes coming in. Well, they'll become ill for whatever reason, and they come into the hospital and they throw their hands up and they're like, "You need to fix me." And like, for whatever reason, they have this idea that we have all the answers and all these magical pills and strategies that's going to make them better today.
Right. If only it were that easy.
No, ma'am, no, sir. This stuff took you days to get here. You didn't just wake up one day with cancer. Your body had work time to make it to where it is.
Right.
So that way you need treatment. It's going to take time to get back from that. Same thing with mental health. It took you time to get to this depressive or state of anxiety or whatever the case may be. It's going to take time to get you back. And you're going to have to be patient with yourself first and foremost, because this is, I hate to frame it this way, but this is you with the issue. So we aren't in your body. We're not in your environment. We're not in your space. We don't know everything there is about your life. When patients come to us, they're the expert in their own lives, and it's their job to advocate for themselves and by letting us know what's going on with you so we can best help you based on what your experiences are. Right. That part's difficult because most people are extremely unaware of themselves. They don't know about their habits or what's healthy versus unhealthy. They will argue with you all day that I need this and I need that, but these things are actively making you worse. Drinking that bottle of wine every day is not helping you, but I'm so much calmer and I'm so much, in a better mood when I'm drunk all the time. But your children don't like you. Your wife doesn't like you. You can't keep a job. I mean, these different things.
Yeah.
That from your perspective are okay. I'm okay with all of these issues in my life as long as I can be happy in my own mind. But the problem is that, are you actually happy if you have to run away from all of these different things by being inebriated all the time? So we have to really unpack all of these things, and it could be pretty difficult and jarring, and people are complex. So they need, nobody has one set of key for all people.
That's
my job,
perfect. Yeah.
That's kind of how it is in my job. Like, I have patients who don't really like talking to my doctor, not because he's a horrible doctor, but he's not warm and fuzzy. He's just going to tell you, this is what it is, and this is what it is, this is what we're going to do. And then they feel like, why does he talk to people that way? Well, he's giving you the facts about the medication. I'm here to explain the pieces of it that you might not understand the most and make them a little bit clearer.
Right.
Let's talk about some strategies and some therapy you can engage in that kind of help you feel better about what you can do next. I'm going to help you plan next, and then we'll kind of come back to that. Your doctor doesn't always know how to be a therapist. Oh, this is an aside.
Yeah,
this
please,
is just a pet peeve of mine.
please.
I need everybody to pay attention to this. Not every psychiatrist is a therapist. Okay?
Yes.
Just because they're MD does not mean that they are a therapist. So many people go to their psychiatrist and then they get upset that they only see them for 15 minutes once every 3 months and don't understand why they're not getting better. Because your psychiatrist is not a therapist. Some of them are, but they have to say that specifically. Okay.
Right.
You'll have psychiatrists who say that they offer therapy. You'll have psychiatrists who will say that they are therapists. And you'll have psychiatrists who will say, I'm a psychiatrist. You need to ask them very intentional and direct questions about their experience offering therapy, because most of them aren't good at it. I'm just going to be real. The way they're trained is completely different from how I'm trained. How I'm trained is completely different from how LPC or MFT is trained. You want to ask specific questions about their understanding of therapy. No one person is good at all things. And I need everybody to hear that, because most people come in making that mistake and they thought that they were doing the right thing by seeing a doctor, and then they don't understand why they are still dysregulated after all this time. And you wasted 10, 20 years with this person taking medications and you still don't understand why you're depressed. Well, you really weren't getting off actual therapy. You were just talking to a guy after he gave you some pills, and he really wasn't doing anything for you therapeutically.
Well, and I hate to
that's the thing.
Like, I hate to put it this way, but it's kind of like when you go to a car dealership, or not a car dealership, when you go to the mechanic, right? And you go in for, hey, I blew a tire, and you say, hey, I need them to fix this tire, right? They're going to fix that tire, but like, they might not also tell you, if you didn't pay for it, and if that's not what's being discussed, that there's also all these other issues at the same time. Like you have to be, like you said, you have to speak directly and with intent when you go to see different specialists, and make sure that they are the ones that are fitting in the right places for you to recover in some fashion.
Right, that works best for you.
Right, that works best for you, exactly. We humans, we have an amazing capacity, just what you were saying earlier. We have an amazing capacity to rationalize shit, like, just incredibly. Like you said, like the world could be falling apart, but as long as I feel happy today, everything's cool, right? No, not necessarily. You know what I mean? Just because you're able to keep a job doesn't mean you don't have an alcohol problem. Just because those people didn't catch you smoking that shit in the fridge at your work doesn't mean that it's not an issue and that it's not a problem. Right. Just because you're not in jail, and just because the cops are knocking on your door, doesn't mean what you're doing is good or right. It really
just means you didn't get caught.
Right. Exactly. It just means no one's there to hold you accountable. Like, that's really what it is. And I think as adults who are interested in bettering ourselves, we have to be able to be that person for ourselves, to hold ourselves accountable, because sometimes not only do we not have someone else there to do it, but many times it's not their responsibility to hold us accountable. You know what I mean? It's our issues. It's our problems.
Or they're not in a position of power to do it. So let's go back to even our own childhood. So we're going through trauma. I use my own parents, them getting a divorce. That impacted me and my brother in very significant ways. Both of us experienced it very differently. We were in a position of power to direct or hold our parents accountable for what they were doing to us. We didn't have the words or the emotional ability to be able to even have that conversation.
Right.
While at the same time, our parents were going through a very traumatic experience themselves and trying to be our parents at the same time. That's a lot at one time.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, they didn't even know that one of their children was significantly traumatized at that time, and they really couldn't understand where all this stuff was coming from. Speaking about my own behaviors at that time, and they were just like confused. Everybody's just in this complete chaos. So accountability and just kind of really having that conversation is very difficult for families, because, again, most of us aren't very self-aware. Even when we are self-aware, there's always new things to learn. And it can be very difficult to kind of really hold yourself accountable for things when, you're not used to it, because then that accountability can feel like an attack, and nobody likes to feel attacked. And again, you have to find the person with the right keys to work with you. So even with people who might like the things that I'm saying, if they were in sessions with me, they might be uncomfortable being in a room by themselves with this big old black man talking to them about their feelings and their sexual trauma. They might need somebody else just by virtue of that alone. And that's okay. But you have to be aware enough of yourself to be able to say that and be able to ask for that kind of help. You see what I'm saying? Which can be kind of weird. Some people might not want to say that to my face directly, but it's okay that you feel that way, as long as you're not using that as a tool to escape doing what you need to do to help yourself. Right.
Yeah, that's so crucial right there. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, that's so crucial right there. Exactly. As there's so many ways that we kind of convince ourselves that everything's cool, and it's many times it's just ways to kind of make ourselves feel better for the fact that we know that we're not doing the right thing, really. You know,
Right.
our own minds are very are very clever, and very very good at self defense. And that's the thing, is like the tools that this is gonna sound a little out there, I guess, but I feel like the tools that we have inside of ourselves, without education, without research, without professional help in some fashion, I think are very kind of basic and primal. And so your brain is going to tell you whatever it needs to tell you for you to be able to be okay. And
Right.
many times that thing that your brain is telling you, or that your body is telling you, isn't always exactly the best thing for you.
Right.
It's just kind of like our gut reaction. It's like our knee jerk reaction, as a way to, like, encase ourselves in protection. Protect ourselves
Right.
from the results, protect ourselves from the consequences.
Right.
So,
That's part of human nature to seek safety. So one
yes,
of the things they taught me when I was in school was that most people are most people are extremely uncomfortable with the unknown, with
hmm
things that are like left up in the air, gray area, that most people do not like it. You know what I mean? That's just
yeah,
natural. When we learn, the social workers, how to sit in that space of gray area and be okay, and we also learn how to take things from the gray area and make them black and white for people, because most people can't function in that gray. They can't even think or plan or do anything with that. So
yep,
we learn to bring those things down from the ethers and make it very simple and easy for you to understand it and do something with it. So, like, when you're in any type of treatment, I'll even tell people when they go to psychiatric hospitals, like, ask who your social worker is and try to have a good rapport with them, because they'll be the person that can get you the answers that you're looking for. And if they don't know what the answers are, they can show you where to get them. At
right,
least a good one will. Um, and most people overlook social work all the time because they were like, well, you're not giving me my medications. No, I'm not. But at the same time, I do know that the medication that you're on is something that you can't afford. And
right,
you should probably ask your doctor about this medication, because you'll be able to do that long term, because the doctors are just going to give you what they know to give you based off what their training tells them. They might not be thinking about, like, how the difference between the generic version and the commercial version are about like a $300 difference, and your insurance only covers about $10 of that. I knew that because I'm your social worker, but your doctor didn't, and you didn't
right,
ask
right.
me. Now you can't afford your meds, and I saw you again next month. So people don't think about that, but that's why you have a team, and you need to make sure you're advocating for yourself by asking all the questions that are pertinent to you, so that way you don't end up in the lurch when you leave.
Right, right, because there's very sort of like basic grooves you can fall into, that the doctor or whatever is just gonna say, well, this patient has these boxes checked, so this is what we're gonna give them. But like you said, not even necessarily considering their emotional background, their childhood trauma, what
Mhm.
medications and what therapies, what procedures they've already had done already, things like that. And
Right.
that's why you said, yeah, like a team is so important. It's so important to have a support system, not only in your personal life, but in your mental health life. You need to have a
Right.
team.
Well,
um,
even like, just like with your, okay, so with like mental health life. So I didn't realize the importance of having a team for my own recovery from my own personal trauma. Like, as I did the work growing up and going into therapy and trying to figure it out on my own, I realized that I had friends that I can talk to about the trauma itself, because they had went through similar experiences. So it was easy for us to sit in really heavy spaces and have very heavy conversations, and
right,
very difficult, oh, let's talk about like childhood rape. Let's talk about like risky sexual behaviors. Let's talk about almost dying. Let's talk about suicide attempts. Like, people, there are such groups of people who can just sit down and talk about this stuff and not be jarred by it.
yeah,
And then I had friends who were like, "Oh, I can't even do that. That's too much." But I could go to those people when I was feeling anxious, or I was feeling like my head was going to a really bad space, and they were always able to say, "Bitch, let's go shopping.
right,
Bitch, we finna go get our feet done. Let's go do this." Like, they just want to be stupid and just do simple shit that ain't really got to do. It's mindless, and then
right,
they just want to have a good time. And sometimes you just need that for your mental health,
for
because
sure.
it's just a way to decompress, right?
Yeah,
Without having to take it to such a heavy space. So I can process with this group of friends, but I can also go and just kind of do mindless things that are just kind of help me to be mindful with this group of friends. And that's your team. they don't necessarily have to be aware of that up front, but you keep them around because they kind of help keep you stable without you dumping everything all on them at once like you would a therapist, right?
Right.
I was going to go somewhere with that, and then I forgot.
That's all right. No,
Okay.
I feel like the gist is that in your mental health life and also in your personal life, which of course they overlap, it's important to have different things for different things, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Like you know,
Right.
different people for different moods, different friends for for different things, and try not to get them confused and crossed. I think a lot of people end up in really tough or damaging relationships because they are looking for one thing and deciding that their partner who cannot give that thing is the person that's going to give them everything. And it's like that's not necessarily how it always works. Some people do find a partner in their life, and that partner can be many things to them. But I think anybody out here who's listening right now, I mean, I think we can all relate to the sentiment that like you have your one friend that you said like wants to do mindless stuff and get your mind off things and have a good time, and that friend is great for that. But then you have your other friend over here that you can really talk to about some real shit, really talk to about
Right.
suicide and depression and things like that, and they're there for you. So it's so
Right.
in the same way that it's good to keep your mental health team in check, it's good to keep kind of like kind of a support system organized in your personal life
Right.
as well.
Right. It's very most people kind of do that naturally, so to speak. But again, that key word that I want everybody to take away tonight is intention.
Yeah.
Like if you can practice more intentional relationships in your life, then you'll find yourself just having a better life satisfaction with pretty much everything you do. If you're intentional about the things you're doing, whether it's shopping, um, being healthy, building a relationship, trying to repair your relationships, whatever. If you're being intentional about it, you'll get everything you need, even if it means that relationship has to end
Yeah.
with whatever that situation is. I wanted to go back what you said about relationship with like a partner. One of the big mistakes that I have found this in my career is that many people have this romanticized idea. I have to be very careful about this because I don't want this to be peppered with my own personal bias around relationships, so to speak, my own opinion about romantic relationships, is that people make the mistake of thinking that their significant other can be their therapist. This is very true for men and men in like heteronormative relationships.
Yeah.
Oftentimes you'll see, cis het men make women carry the emotional labor in their relationships, which is completely unhealthy. Women are not natural therapists. Okay.
Right.
Women don't have more capacity for emotions than men do. They just have been socialized to be able to engage with them more than men have.
Right.
So men have the same ability to go out there and feel and express their emotions as women do. You just have to be intentional about doing it. So if you're a guy, straight, gay, bisexual, whatever the case may be for you, if you're intentional about engaging with your emotions, you won't need to have a partner to be able to emotionally heal you. You could do that yourself.
Right.
And I will also encourage you to seek out a therapist if you need more support, because putting that labor onto your partner will exhaust them, and then you'll find them gravitating away from you.
Right.
Because they can't really handle their emotions, your emotions, working through the unit that is your relationship and the emotions that come from that, and then everything else going on in life. Literally, they're not a therapist.
Right.
Even if I were to be in a relationship, I wouldn't want to be my boyfriend's therapist because we're in a relationship. I can't be your therapist and your boyfriend at the same time.
Yeah, right.
Okay?
Different people for different things. Yeah.
Right. Different people for different things. And like, while I can probably do some therapeutic stuff, our relationship can be therapeutic to you. I can't be your therapist.
Right.
If I'm in a relationship with you. That's why even in our code of ethics as social workers, we can never date our clients. I can lose my license for dating my clients. So,
right.
You have to maintain that distance to be able to kind of be the most effective for them.
Yeah.
I did see someone, I guess, mention substance abuse. I wanted to talk about that too a little bit before I move on to get a little bit, because that's a whole nother set of things. But I know. Well, never mind. Go ahead. I just wanted to make that point.
No. Yeah, no,
Sorry.
that's great. Yeah, please, like, no, continue. Substance abuse. I saw Kimawa here. Also, hi Kimawa. Is talking about.
Hey, girl.
Well, was talking about like how things like smoking weed can be just kind of like a band-aid, and not a long-term solution. Um,
Right.
But yeah, no, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was just trying to like touch on it because I know in mental health discussions, substance abuse oftentimes does get skirt to the side, so to speak.
Yeah.
Just because it's just I'm gonna say this anecdotally. Most people, because we're in the South, look at substance abuse as more like a personal problem, like it's just a bad habit you need to stop,
Right.
that type of thing, and they don't really understand it to be the disease that it is.
Yeah, it's not that
It
simple.
even took me a long time. Yeah, it's not that simple. It took me a long time to wrap my mind around that, and that's very difficult to for me to think about because I don't really have substance abuse issues. So I'm not going to lie. In the beginning, I really did come at it from a place of judgment because of my own upbringing. And again, just being in the South, if you won't be addicted to cocaine, just stop doing cocaine. That's where my
Right.
mind went. But
If
the
only it was
reality
that
of it
easy.
is that there are so many driving factors in substance abuse, right? So, and it's different for different people. So you have to really, you know, um, have a unique conversation when it comes to substance abuse. The field in and of itself used to be just kind of like the substance abuse only, but they're moving to what's called dual diagnosis, where they were learning that most people with substance abuse issue have some underlying mental health issue, whether it be like depression or anxiety, and they're using substances to cope with that.
Right.
I've met a lot of people who tend to have a lot of like trauma or unidentified trauma. So things that you might not consider trauma, like the parents divorcing, that could be a traumatic experience. But most people don't call your parents getting a divorce traumatic, especially if you're like 15 or 16, something like that. But it can be for that person who's experiencing it. And maybe they're turning to these drugs and alcohol because they're easily accessible. There's something that's within their control to do. It makes them feel better in the moment. And, it solves a lot of the checklists that they need to solve their problem, right? So, it's something that's very sneaky. It can sneak up on people and you don't even realize that, all of a sudden now I have an issue with this substance and I didn't realize I was this deep down the hole and I didn't see it coming. I didn't feel like I could control it. It just kind of happened, and now I'm here and I can't stop doing these things. So, you need to use things like, that Al-Anon 12-step programs, support groups, just kind of making sure you're aware if you're in the right support group. Just because it's Alcohol Anonymous group doesn't necessarily mean it's the right one for you.
Right.
This is my personal thing. I don't believe in allowing younger people to do mixed groups. So like if you're a 19-year-old male, you really don't need to be in a support group with like 19-year-old females just because the support is going to be different. These are not facilitated by professionals. These are usually peer supports. And you end up with a lot of 13th stepping. So, this young lady over here is trying to figure it out. And this young man over here is trying to figure it out. And they both kind of caught in their misery and they're not focusing on their treatment. They're focusing on like getting together. And now they're in a relationship. And you were supposed to be focusing on being sober. And now y'all just fucking and sucking and now y'all drinking again.
Right.
So
that happens a lot.
This kind of stuff, you got to be careful about it. So I always say when you're young and you're impressionable, do an all male group, all female group. If you're in the LGBT community, make sure you're getting like focused support. So you're not in these groups with people who are like going to victimize you when you're in a vulnerable state. These support groups are very vulnerable spaces and there are predators in them. That's evidence-based. That's where they go. People are trying to seek help and trying to find a place to feel safe. Predators are going to go to that place where you feel safest, and you need to be aware of that.
Right.
So, and then unfortunately, being males in like the gay community, there are a lot of gay men who are predators. And be honest, and they'll do things like that. Now, it's not in the same way as you would think of like child abusers, but it's more so like they know you're vulnerable.
Right.
They know that you are predispositioned to do things sexually, and they're going to go to that space and they're like be provocative. Different things like that. So you have to be ready for that type of thing in these spaces. And while you're trying to really focus on your sobriety, be aware of those people who want to take that focus off of you being sober. You see what I'm saying? They're not supporting you in that and being consistent about that and also focusing on their sobriety. They're probably not the right people for you in that moment.
I
Doesn't mean they're
love.
not good people. They just might not be in the same space that you are in your recovery, and you really have to work with people who are in the same space as you are in order to maintain that sobriety and recovery at the same time.
Yeah, no, I love that you're saying that. I think a big, just speaking as a person that's worked in nightlife for many years now, it is a challenge and a balance of trying to keep, like, before March and back, right? For the past several years, I was basically doing 3-4 nights a week at bars and events, making stuff happen, and it was great. But at the same time, when you go out a lot, you start to realize, like, a lot of the folks that go out a lot, it's not just, sure, you get the person that's like, oh, I go out every month, or I go out, every now and then or whatever, and they're coming and they have a great time and they go home and then they don't go out for a couple months. But then there's people that are there like every night, and many times, I mean, unless they're working there, and let's be honest, a lot of times the people that are working there, they've got, like, this is an issue, this is a problem, and because of the way our society is set up, there's nothing to kind of stop them from heading straight first into a black pit. You know what I'm saying? Like in terms of substance abuse, or in terms of mental disarray, bars and clubs and things like that are places a lot of the time where people are sort of able to feel justified in continuing to do unhealthy and self-destructive behaviors.
Right.
And you really got to, like, watch that. It's not that hard to watch it right now, because in 2020 most people are not going out, thankfully. Apparently several are, but not the majority of the people. But it definitely pays to, like, keep an eye on sort of absolutely, like you were saying, in support groups, but even just like in everyday life, it's important to, like, keep track of who you have around you and what their values are, and, like, what they're doing. Because if you're hanging out with 10 people and 8 of them have drinking problems, but they all don't think they have, they're just, like, getting by, they're gonna rope you into it. Like, that's just what happens. They're gonna pull you into it, and then before you know it, you realize, like, wow, I just drank like 6 nights in a row. Holy shit!
Right.
It's happened to me for sure.
Yeah, and the gag is that these people probably aren't even bad people.
Right.
They're probably not even, like, predatory people. They're just people who are probably hurting and looking for support and trying to find ways to heal in their own way, and they're actively taking other people down. My mama used to say all the time, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. People might want to do all the right in the world, and they'll still be leading you down the wrong path. So you have to be aware. What did Cat Williams say? You got to be in tune with your star player, which is you.
Yes.
You have to know what you want to do for you and be true to that. And you really have to be intentional about that work. There's that word again, intentional.
For sure.
Be aware of what you want to do for you, and make sure that move is going to be the move you make in everything that you're doing, right? And there's support for that. There are people who will gravitate to you and support you in it, and you'll know who those people are, and you keep those people around. And if they don't stay forever, that's okay. But you did the work, and you're actively doing the work. And as long as you're putting intentional effort into making it happen for yourself, you'll always grow and you'll do better, and things will kind of even out on their own in time. You just have to kind of keep at it every day.
All right, so I have just a few more things I want to talk about, and then I think that'll be good for tonight.
Sure.
So one thing is routine. We haven't spoken about this, like, directly, but I know just by, like, knowing you and just by everything we've talked about here and just in the past that and just in my own experience, having routine is important. I'm not saying that I stick to my same routine every day, and sometimes I'll go weeks and kind of just get off the track, but in general, from when I wake up, whenever that is, to when I go to sleep, I kind of have, like, a loose outline of what's going to keep me motivated, what's going to keep me positive, what's going to keep me kind of, like, on the level, so that I don't dip into negativity and depression and things like that. Because even for those of us who don't, quote unquote, suffer from depression or anxiety, things like that, everything that has happened this year and everything that continues to happen, we're not even done with this election yet. And let's be real, it's going to drag out. So,
unfortunately,
right. We still have more work to do in January. It's a whole it's a whole epic battle going on right now. So you know, I think there is some leeway in terms of like, let yourself relax a little bit, let yourself kind of breathe and center and balance and ground yourself. Like let that happen, let that in, but don't beat yourself up. And this is just me personally, this is my own personal opinion to everybody out there. Don't beat yourself up if you don't have like a perfect, amazing wellness yoga routine every day.
Right.
It's kind of impossible to be perfect about it. But I did want to ask you about, like, how do you think a good routine can promote like good mental health, can promote a balanced mental existence?
Right. Well, you kind of loosely touched on it. You want to stay away from that word perfect. Okay.
Right.
Perfection is the enemy of growth.
Mhm.
Okay. You do not want to be perfect. You want it to be right for you, whatever that is, whatever that means for you, as long as it's healthy, it's not hurting you or hurting anyone else around you or taking away from you emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. It just needs to be right for you. Okay. Everybody follows a routine, even people who don't. Like Herb, I know you feel like you're kind of like a little bit more flexible and loose flowing, but you're following a routine. You've been doing this stream for like months, almost years now.
Yeah.
That's a routine. Your day is built around the things you have to do. For your streams at night, the activities you were doing in the community is built around that routine. You had things you had to prepare for and get done. You had made your own personal schedule that kept you focused and in tune with what you needed to do to take care of yourself. And these things work. Most of us follow a routine because we're working. So we have a routine that's kind of geared around that. If you have children, you definitely have a routine. You don't have a choice.
Right.
You have to have it for your kids. Children crave structure. That's just what we all did it at one time. It promotes safety. When you know what's coming next, you feel safe, you're calmer, and you're less likely to engage in anxiety. That's why people who have come from very chaotic environments have issues with anxiety and depression, which are what's called comorbid, which means they come together. Usually if you have one, you got the other.
Right.
So that lack of structure, that lack of keeping things in a routine and understanding what's coming next will promote a lot of anxiety. You might have issues with sleep. You might have issues with maintaining your focus. You might have issues with eating healthy. These things are could be from a multitude of things, but if we're talking about a routine, keeping a routine will help you to mitigate all that anxiety and bring things a little bit closer to center. Okay. Again, what works best for you? I know you say like you kind of have your sleep patterns where you might sleep more in the daytime and then you get up and you do things in the evening. That works for you. So that's a great routine.
Yeah.
It works for your life. It works for your partners. It works for the way you run things in your space. And that's perfect for you. Right? So it's like, but that wouldn't work for everyone else. So that's why that word perfection is not going to always fly, because that might not work today, because other things might have been going on. Things happen. Again, you have partners, so you have to kind of make sure that your schedule links up with their schedule. So that way everybody's always balanced and happy.
Right.
There's a lot of different things, right? So what you want to do is really, again, be intentional about making sure what I'm doing is going to give me the best possible outcome for my day, whatever that is. Whatever I'm doing is not going to detract away from me mentally, emotionally, spiritually, if that's something that you fall into. Okay.
Right.
So we all have to like make money to work. Most of us who don't have $1 million or whatever the case may be, we got to do that. So you take into the things in your life that you have to do, work, pay bills, things like that. You put them in a place where they fit the best. Okay. And then you fill in the extra space with things that you want to do or that you need to do in order to maintain your health. Okay. So building a schedule can be, well, not a schedule, a routine is really simple, but most people find it really hard because I think most people are operating on autopilot. So you're just kind of doing things that you feel like you're supposed to be doing. Like, I know I got to get up and go to work. During the week I work 8 to 4:30. So like, I know I can't stay up all night, and like, I like to do the streams and sit up with you guys, but I know I can't do it because I got to go to work and I have to be emotionally available for my patients. So I have to make sure I'm well rested. Otherwise I'm going to be at work and they're going to be talking to me. I'm just like, okay, I am a therapist, but at the same time, like sometimes I get tired of dealing with other people and their stuff, and I'm just like, I really wish you would stop talking. But like, like you can't do that because they need your help. And my patients are typically actively in crisis because I work in a crisis environment. So like I have to be on for them. Even when I don't feel like it, I have to be on. So I know that, and I have to make sure my routine reflects the space and the energy that allow me to recharge that. So I'm never at work and I'm like depleted,
Right,
and
right.
if it happens at work, I have to come up with routines to kind of help me get my energy back while I'm at work. So that way I can be at 100% for them to the best of my ability. Now, you guys don't have to follow anything like that for me because I work in a very emotionally charged space, and there's a lot of emotional demands placed on me based on the work that I do. If that's not, what's going on with you, you might have a job that's very mentally taxing, or very physically taxing, and you want to make sure you're doing things that give you the energy and the space to recover to go back and do what you need to do again.
Right.
So it's really just kind of taking time out to really think about what is going to work best for me to give me the best outcome to wake up at 100% in the morning. Okay, whatever that is for you, figure those things out. If you need help, ask. Okay, any mental health provider can help you build something. You can go to a therapist session maybe once or twice, and then work on building a routine to get yourself, in a good headspace. You can go see a therapist to build your sleep schedule. If you don't know how to do that, you can go see, a provider somewhere to kind of help you structure a schedule out for your kids if you don't know what to do. There's all types of things you can do if you need that kind of help. You just have to ask for it and know where to go. Did that answer the question? I feel like I kind of like just rambled off a little bit.
Yeah, no. I mean, this whole thing. This is why I wanted to do this because, like, we have concrete questions, but we have kind of free form answers, and I think that's perfect because really, in 35 years of living, if I've learned anything about mental health, it's that the answers aren't very typically concrete. It is kind of like you said, everything is a gray area, and everything is kind of like based on you as a human. Just like a fingerprint, we all have individual minds and hearts, and we all deal with things and experience things differently. So I think it's great when we meander off and talk about things. This is perfect. So all right. So there's I have a book here that my mom sent me because she loves me a whole lot. She's here in the chat with us. She is Slovakian. She's done a lot of group therapy, and has worked in detox and various mental health fields for many years.
So she's a pro. You should have had her come up in here and do this. She's probably way better invested in this than I am.
Well, maybe we will do that sometime. I just
no pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. So she sent me this book. It's called Stepping Stones. It's
okay.
What is that good or bad?
Go ahead. No, it's good. I know about that book. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's called Stepping Stones. It's called Daily Meditations for Men. I think you could just replace that with Daily Meditations altogether because you might say men need certain things. Sure, but these days, the more that we kind of dawn on this era of many folks coming out as non-binary, I think really any meditation helpful, tools and skills, I think they just apply to everybody. I really do. So I'm going to read this one from today, and then let's do a little bit of discussion on it, and then we'll do our last words, and that'll be it. So this is from November 6th in this book, Stepping Stones, and I'm going to read this real quick. The quote on top, it says, one father is more than 100 schoolmasters. And the rest of it goes like this. Many of us feel like outsiders in our own families. Who we are and what roles we are meant to play with our loved ones is sometimes unclear. Some of us grew up with absent fathers and may never have learned how to live as fathers in the close circle of love at home. How can we move from an outsider position or even an enemy position into a full relationship with our children? We can begin by showing our real selves. We take the risk of telling them what we care about, what we love, and how we feel. We say what scares us, what breaks our hearts, and what our past was like. The greatest gift we can give is to open our feelings and let our loved ones know us. These changes do not happen in a day or even a month, but gradually, with repeated expressions of ourselves, in the process of letting ourselves be known, we become loved for who we are, not only for what we can do. And at the bottom it says, today I will tell someone in my family how I feel. Now this speaks to me on many levels. One, because I did spend a good portion of my childhood without a father, and for that matter, with a lot of loss in my family. I was raised after my grandparents had all passed away, basically, by the time I was born. So I never met my grandparents ever. So when I hear hundreds and thousands of people online and just people I've met in life and, you know, TV shows and movies where people go to see their grandma or they have like a family reunion or whatever, I've never had any of that ever in my whole life. I've never met anybody that was older than a certain age in my extended family. And, you know, that's not kind of like a boohoo statement. That's more of like a statement on the fact that family identity and family structure for me personally is different from a lot of other folks. And we all have a different relationship with our families as a result. When it says right here, today I will tell someone in my family how I feel like right now that's more relevant than ever, because right now, especially if you're white, you need to be talking to your family about why they decided to possibly vote for someone that is not okay. You know, that's a whole thing. I know we're talking about our place in the family, our role in the family, how we feel as family members, but I definitely think that this translates into current events as well. You got to be able to talk with your family like real talk about shit. So with that said, tell me how you feel. Tell me what you think.
Oh, well, I love that book for one.
Cool.
I do. When I was doing child therapy, I would give that out to my fathers. I do have to challenge you a tad bit, Herb.
Tell me.
When we're talking about, that's a very heteronormative book.
Okay.
So it's really based on like, you know, heterosexual dynamics.
Right.
But everyone can use it, but like it's really built for like heterosexual males.
Sure.
And men in general do need specific engagement when it comes to just emotion identification. I mean, you can ask any guy, probably even your partners, like if I ask you how you feel today, they might just kind of ramble off about what we were doing, what they were talking, but like if you ask them how you're actually feeling, a lot of men can't do that. And
True.
it's just like a social skill that's been indoctrinated into all of us. And it was something that I had to really unlearn to become a therapist. You can't do therapy if you don't know how to engage with your emotions. And that's the first step in order to be able to express yourself openly and freely. You have to know what it is that you're experiencing emotionally so people can understand and see that and communicate with it, right? That's very, very difficult work for anybody, man or woman or non-binary person. But it's a lot of work to do for men just because society tells us that there is no space for us to do that in.
Very true.
So that's a very unique space to be in. And when you bring in like LGBTQ issues, our dynamics are different because, again, when I said earlier, society teaches men to pour your emotions into women. Mm-hmm. Women are supposed to carry your emotional labor, which is not really fair to them. They have their own emotional labor that they have to, just being a person. And then being oppressed, being women. So they have their own things they have to take care of. They can't carry their weight and your weight too. And then you want them to be there while you try to figure out your emotions, which are things technically you should have done during your adolescence, but you didn't. It's not your fault as a man, but it happened.
Right.
So that's a very large and very broad conversation and discussion. And then you bring it into like that gay space or that LGBTQ space. And then you have trans people who are kind of like on this in-between. Mm-hmm. You might have non-binary people who are also on the in-between. You might have people who might identify as lesbian or a gay cisgender man, whatever the case may be for them. But then they have that trauma of being like a marginalized person. And then you might bring in like person of color. There's a lot of different intersectionality existences that go on there.
Yeah.
That make that kind of thing very complicated to do. But when you're engaging with it, the sentiment is still the same. It's just that people will have to come to it from different perspectives, right? Mm-hmm. I like the statement because it's like you really do need to practice being expressive and open with yourself, your emotions, your feelings, and being able to identify those. Telling your children you love them, not because that's something that you feel like you're supposed to do, but because you genuinely do love them. like really have a conversation with other men in a space that's predominantly male about what it means to love from your own perspective. So like if you just sit down having a conversation with your guy friends and y'all just have a conversation about that type of thing. Because I've sat with my girlfriends all the time and they'll sit up and talk about that stuff like just randomly. Like
Yeah.
this is what love means to me, and this is what love means to me. And you never hear that in just male spaces. So
Yeah,
like when they do
agreed.
things like that more often, it'll make it easier for them to express that and connect in those spaces when they're trying to seek out relationships, right? And it also gives them more power and control in their relationships because many men, um, by virtue of doing child therapy, I had to do family therapy with their parents, and then it'll turn into mom's making all the emotional decisions for the family. She's exhausted. Dad feel like he doesn't have any control unless he's spending money, and he feel like his opinions don't matter when it comes to the rearing and the values of the children.
Right.
And now it's a schism between the parents. It's all types of stuff that goes into it. So it's like you have to. Everybody needs to do their own work before they come to the table trying to get other people to do the work, right? It's just it's a good book. I'm glad you have that because it's going to be really helpful. It was helpful to my families that I gave it to. It was helpful for me because I use some of it, and it provokes a lot of thought and introspection and ideas, and it provokes you to really think about what you're doing. The having conversations about racism and oppression, especially if you're a white person in a white space, I can't really speak to how that experience would feel, but I would imagine it'll be very difficult because these are people that you love and value, but you also see them as a person who is actively hurting other people, and that's very hard to bear witness to. It's kind of like I don't want to equate racism to like being an abuser. Maybe I don't know how to answer that question.
Yeah, I know that's kind of like two different topics, but when I read about like telling someone in your family how you feel, that really does strike a chord in me as a queer person, and for that matter as a person who has always been kind of like for lack of a better term, counterculture. You know, like I've always believed that there are so many tools out there for us to transcend, to get better as a species, as a people, right, mentally, emotionally. But I feel like the society that we live in America, specifically in America, is not really engaged in that or encouraging that or supportive of that. And I feel like where that starts is in our families, and talking to our families about how we feel about things, like how we actually feel, how it makes us feel about things, instead of just saying, well, you know, it's my mom and my dad, they're not going to change, that's just how they are. Like, no. That's exactly where the change happens, because if we're able to reach, and this is just how I feel, if we're able to reach some kind of like common ground and level with our families, then we will pass that on to the families that we build in the future, and they'll pass it on to theirs. And even though that's not, you know, I have a tendency to kind of like meld topics a little bit, but I feel like it is related. I feel like there's, you know, right now more than ever, we have to be talking to our families openly about what's going on in our country, about what's going on to marginalized groups, about how we feel about those things, about how it's affecting us, and not just vote for whoever and then whoever wins and then we just go back to sleep. We have to stay awake. We have to stay involved and in touch with our feelings, you know?
Right. Now this is, Amanda Seales did a really good conversation about this. And y'all need to follow Amanda Seales on Instagram. She's a Black woman. She talks about these types of things. She's very pro-Black, and she wrote a book, Smart but Funny and Black, and it talks about some of these things. But the issue that will come up, it was something that she said that brought me to another space with this kind of conversation. But really being aware of your family system. So we know our families left and right. There are certain things that I can talk to my mom about all day, and there are certain things that I know if I talk to my mom about it or I bring it up to my mom, it's going to turn to a conversation that's less about how I feel about it and more about what her experience was.
Right.
And that's just because of where she is in her own stuff. So, like, while I agree with you, I also encourage people to be aware and intentional about these conversations, because we're in a pandemic right now. I can't really imagine what it would be like to have that kind of conversation from a white perspective, but I do know that if I were in a situation with my mother and I had to be at odds with her emotionally during this pandemic, it will probably make me more depressed than happy, because like,
Oh yeah.
from my perspective, my mom is the only person I feel that has my back. I can't really lose my mom emotionally right now. I don't think I would do well if she wasn't here. So I wouldn't necessarily, again, I don't think what you're saying is wrong. It's just timing.
Yeah.
A big part
yeah.
of family work is timing. You have to make sure that they're ready and you're ready. You also have to be prepared for whatever you get from them, especially if you're like the child talking to the parent, because that dynamic in and of itself is going to create a barrier and a power struggle. And they're going to feel like they don't really have to listen to any of your opinions by virtue of the fact that they're your parent. Now, certain parents might not feel that way, but at the same time, it's still you expressing yourself. And then if you come in with an expectation of change on their part, you may feel a tad bit disappointed because they're going to change at their own pace. They're their own person, even though they're your parents.
Right.
So that's different from person to person, but coming to how you feel about coming to your own thoughts and feelings and awareness about what you feel and being solid in that and being aware of why you feel the way you feel, steadfast in the way you feel and what you feel. When you bring it to your parents, whatever their reaction is, whether it be positive or negative or neutral, you'll be fine walking away from it, and you'll be able to still maintain that same relationship with them if it ended positively. Some people can't go talk to their parents about certain things and then it end positively. It might end up with a table flipped over and now they're going to go destroy your Xbox.
Right.
Stuff like that. It's all types of crazy stuff. So you have to remember who you're talking to, be aware of yourself, be intentional, and then make sure that that conversation is held in a way that is held in a way that's going to be productive and not bring you to a negative headspace.
That's wonderful. Yeah, right there. That's wonderful. Exactly. Like knowing yourself and being honest with yourself about how you feel and being able to stand strong in those feelings and know that you can go talk to people who may have an opposing thoughts or feelings about it, and that's okay. And they can feel how they feel, and you can walk away and still have peace. Yes, absolutely. So do me a favor. You said Amanda Seales?
Yes, Amanda Seales. She's on Instagram and Facebook and everywhere, and she wrote a book called Smart, Funny, and Black.
Okay, if you have like a link, like stick it in the wellness.
I'll see if I can find a copy of it, because not Smart, Funny, and Black. I forgot that's the name of her show. Or Amanda.
Just for everybody out here.
It was the book called Small Doses. I'm sorry, Small Doses.
Small Doses.
I linked it out and I forgot about it.
Okay. So just for everybody, just for everybody out there in our Discord, which is right here, there's a section called Wellness. Once you enter the Discord, I have to approve you, so just go in there and sit tight. I'll take a look through if anybody came through during this stream. There's a section called Wellness. We talk about all kinds of stuff in there. People come in there and sort of vent their things that they're going through. A lot of people have lost people during the pandemic. To COVID, a lot of people are going through divorces and weird things. So just, trigger warning. Just when you go in there, just have an open mind. If you have something nice to say, say it. If you have something uplifting or some resources to share, please share them. If you scroll up, there's several resources on suicide hotlines. We just did a, what do you call it? I know someone posted a trans lifeline hotline thing in there, but if it's not, I'll handle that. If you are a trans person and you are having thoughts of suicide or depression, please check out Trans Lifeline. They are specifically designed for trans people to gain mental stability and to be safe.
Right. And please DM me in Discord as well, because I do have resources for trans people. I have them. I just collect them for work. So let me know and I can shoot that list to you as well.
Cool. So yeah, I think this has been pretty good. How do you feel?
I like doing this.
so what? We gonna do it every week or what?
You listen, Herb. You and I had this conversation about me starting like a thing. I started a podcast with some people, but like this is different. I enjoy doing this. Like I really like getting into these types of discussions. I would love to like kind of maybe do more with like singular topics, like
Sure.
maybe focus on one mental health diagnosis a week or something like that, or every 2 weeks. So that way we're not so all over the place.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing, but like, maybe if people just had a lot of specific questions about depression or had a lot of specific questions around anxiety.
Yeah, getting more focused is always good.
On that one thing. So that way people can get what they need out of it. That's just a thought. I like doing it. I'm down for it. This was great. I enjoyed myself.
Cool. So
I hope people liked it,
Yeah. I'm having a great time, and thank you so much, Matt, Slovakian, Dustrik, Kimala, Glitter, everybody else who's come through. Dylan, thank you for all being here. Hope you've been able to take something positive away from this. I'm happy to do another one soon. Yeah, I just remember all the stuff in the Discord is out there. I mean, there's resources, there's things in there. It's not the most succinct list necessarily ever, but we do try to have at least a space where you can go and find some resources, some uplifting things, and also maybe, give a couple kind words to someone who's going through something. Sometimes all people need to do is just have someone listen. That's really so much of it a lot of the time.
Right. I mean, and you guys can feel free to ask questions about things too. Because I'm kind of pulled up in chat. I was trying to look at both at the same time. But yeah, maybe I need to probably work on getting a setup so that way I can kind of do this a little bit more freely, because I'm like looking at the phone or looking at my laptop and looking at my phone.
Yeah, let me know and I will help you with that, because I would love to see you like go off and stream with this, and like I would love to help boost and support and host you and whatever. Like absolutely. I'm happy to have you here.
This will be so dope. I gotta never mind. We'll talk about all that later. Anyway, thank you guys. Thank you for having me, Herb. I appreciate you so much.
For sure.
You guys are great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm gonna give you one more shout out right here. If y'all go give Geek Revolution 87 a follow.
Awesome. Follow me on Instagram, Flex Your Focus 87.
Yeah, here, let me type that in. It goes Instagram. It's flex.yourfocus87, right? Okay.
Yeah, there we go. That's me.
So and then just because it's Twitch and we're in a public forum and there are people watching right now, of course all the opinions and advice and everything else expressed here are our own. Take them with a grain of salt, take them as something to think about and something to ponder and something to look further into, but we're not like your actual doctors or anything. So please, if you do need some actual help, go get some actual help. Use the resources that we have. Look up stuff, and definitely check out this book, Stepping Stones. Check out some of the links we're gonna put in the Discord. And keep breathing, y'all, please.
Breathe in and out. Keep breathing.
Yeah.
All day, every day.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for being here.
Bye, you guys.
Bye, Brandon. Bye. All right. So let's switch over here. Ba-dum. I'm gonna take a short break, and then honestly, has the stream been laggy for y'all at all? Has it been like weird, or has it been like kind of stuttery or anything like that? Has it been like messed up, or is it cool? Let me know. Let me know how it is. I feel like it's been all right, but the stats right here are showing me kind of like that it's been a little jumpy. So if that's the case, then I'm going to reset the router before I come back from our break. But if y'all say it's fine, then it's fine. It's a little stuttery. Okay. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take a BRB. I'm going to shut the stream off for a second, but stick around. I'm going to have some music on. I'm going to reset the router, and I'm going to come back, and we're going to play some games. If anybody would like to play games with me, just let me know. We can do Rocket League. We can do Spellbreak. We can do Genshin. We can do whatever. Anything free, crossplay, I'm up for. Or I'm going to play my own games. I've been going through the Messenger again, which I'm on New Game Plus. And if you haven't seen the Messenger, it's fantastic. I love it. We've also got this other game called Purs in Heaven that I've really enjoyed playing on Wednesday, and I kind of think I could beat it like in one sitting. So I might kind of do that. Random games when we come back. Yeah, no, thank you so much, Geek Revolution. I'm going to give you one more shout-out here. Y'all, go follow Brandon. He is on Twitch. He's on Instagram. He's on Discord. He's very knowledgeable. He's super, super adorable, and he's so nice and very patient. And I just really appreciate you being here and being like your wonderful, patient, knowledgeable self. That really, really says a lot to me. Thank you so much. I know it's a really tough week. I know it's hard to even think about getting better or feeling normal or like time is all weird. I can't believe it's already Friday. I can't believe all the votes aren't even counted yet. You know what I mean? Like it's a time warp right now. 2020 is a time warp. It's like bizarro world, you know? So any amount of sort of stability and balance really does help, and I'm really thankful to have a platform here to promote and to share those kinds of things. So thank you all for being here. I'm going to put these alerts back on because I realized I could mute them, and I unmuted them. There we go. Yeah, so I'm going to take a quick BRB. I'm going to throw on some music for y'all. The stream is going to cut out for just a few, but then it'll be right on because I'm going to reset the router, and then we'll come back and play some games. All right, y'all? Thank you for being here. Thank you, thank you. BRB. Stick around.